Oh, hello. Welcome to another Tabletop Impulse video that I'm having to make on a Tuesday, even though Tuesday is my streaming day, because Games Workshop has dropped some huge news on us. And I mean huge. So there's now rules for a bespoke Intercessor Space Marine kill team on Warcom for free. Go and read them. If I remember, I'll put the link in the description. But go if you haven't seen them already, they're there. You need to know that they're there. They're going to impact the game. Right, let's get straight onto it. Let's go through it. I guess this is a first thoughts video. So the Intercession Squad kill team. Here we go. Security and seek and destroy. Good security. So the basic layout of your team is going to be 6 Primaris Marines, 1 Sergeant who can be either an Assault Intercessor Sergeant or an Intercessor Sergeant. The Assault Intercessor Sergeant, I respect them for what they've done here. The Assault Intercessor Sergeant has the option to have a plasma pistol, but if he has the plasma pistol, he has to take the chainsword, right? So if you want a power fist or thunder hammer, you're stuck with a hand flame or a heavy bolt pistol. If you want a plasma pistol, then you take the chainsword. Meanwhile, the Intercessor Sergeant has access to the bolt rifles, the auto bolt rifle, or stalker bolt rifle, and he can take a chainsword or a power fist or a power weapon or a thunder hammer. So you've got your option there. Both sergeants can take a power fist or a thunder hammer. Only the assault sergeant can take a plasma pistol, and if he does, he must take a chainsword. And there's some more differences as well. So the assault, we'll get into this when we see the data sheet. The assault intercessor has basically +1 weapon skill. I know weapon skill is not a stat on the stat block, but effectively the assault intercessor has +1 weapon skill. The intercessor sergeant has +1 ballistic skill. I think by and large, the most obvious choices that jump out the page to me are an assault intercessor with plasma pistol and chainsword might still be the best pick, or an assault intercessor with a heavy bolt pistol and a power fist. I much prefer the power fist to the thunder hammer. If you are a thunder hammer enjoyer, please let me know in the comments why the thunder hammer is better than the power fist. And then you've got your gunner and your grenadier. So you take those in most teams, I think, and then 3 warriors to taste between the intercessors, warriors with the rifles, and the assault intercessors with the heavy bolt pistols and the chainswords. It's a pretty solid team. Clarification there about bolt weapons. A bolt weapon is a ranged weapon that includes bolt in its name. Thanks for that. And then here we've got, this is quite interesting on the bottom, with thanks to First Claw and the Gretchen Revolutionary Committee for their additional playtesting services. So maybe they've got new playtesters in for Kill Team now, or a set of playtesters. Something internal has happened. That's not appeared on any previous kind of set of team that's gone up. So that's really interesting. It's really interesting this has appeared, but let's press on. Let's press on through the video. So chapter tactics. Now they're not what you might have thought you were going to get when it said chapter tactics. It's not. Here's the tactics for Blood Angels. Here's tactics for Ultramarines. Here's the tactics for Black Templars, and so on. It's a buffet. It's a pick and choose. There's going to be a tension here between wanting to do what's fun and fluffy versus what's optimal. So I play Black Templars. I know my Phobos are Red Hunters because I didn't think that Black Templars really fit the Phobos theme. But my Marine army that I have 40k is Black Templars. So if I'm thinking of making a Black Templar kills team, for example, I'm going to be looking at, Martial Zealotry. That's going to be the Black Templars category. Now, you don't take everything from a category. You pick 2 abilities and they apply to your entire team. Okay? So you can't put the assault one on an assault guy and the shooting one on the shooting guy. You have to do it when you create a roster. You put 2 abilities. Every operative on the roster gains the abilities. Now, the fact that they have to go on the roster is really interesting. Those of us that play in tournament play understand straight away what this means, because you write your roster and then you have to play every game across the tournament with that same roster. In one-off games, this is going to be really hard to police, because in theory, If I come to the table to play a game, I need to have determined what chapter tactics I'm going to use before I know the scenario, before I know what team I'm playing against, right? Now that second half, knowing what team you're going to play against, is kind of tricky because people tend to find that information out in advance of the actual game, right? So then they go. It's a little bit of kind of subconscious list tailoring that it's going to be quite hard to self-police. So it is important to know that they go on the roster. There is a tactical ploy that you can spend in the select kill team step, which will let you, and we'll come to that at the end when we get to tactical ploys, that lets you change within these categories. So if you had on your roster, you'd noted down that all your guys had aggressive, and then you looked at, for whatever reason, you wanted to change to rapid for that game, you could do that by spending 1 CP. So here's my problem with it, I guess. So if I'm playing Black Templars, maybe I want to pick Aggressive and Jeweler, because they sound like Templar things, you know, the Sword Brethren and the ritual sword dueling that they have, and the Empress Champion and all that stuff. So I'm picking these two. I think the sensible thing to do, though, from a gamey point of view, possibly is to make sure you don't pick two from the same category, because, as I've said, you've got that ability that lets you change at deployment to one in a different category. But I'm also drawn up here to this unyielding, add 1 to the operative's wounds characteristic. I mean, that is very good because it's in a tournament setting where you have no other information, you just always have more wounds than you should. That's pretty good because it's like always on. It's always on no matter what you're going to do. Rapid here as well is a good one because it's always giving you an extra inch of movement. It's always on. A lot of the others, so these are good when you're going into combat. So unless you're doing something kind of funny, as I might be tempted to do as a Black Templars player and just go all assault intercessors so that you're charging into combat, then you know you're not going to get the benefit from these on every single model, whereas with things like unyielding and rapid, you're going to get the benefit on every single model. Let's look at some of these in detail then. So aggressive, each time operative fights in combat in activation in which it charged, its melee weapons gain rending for that combat. That's pretty good. Jeweler, when you fight in combat in the resolve successful hit step of the it's doing this again. In the resolve successful hit step of the combat, if you parry with a crit, you can select an additional normal hit of your opponent's to be discarded. That could be really very powerful. Okay, because you can double parry with your first parry. It is throwing away and not damaging with the crit, so you've got to bear that in mind. Rapid is an extra inch of movement, which is always solid. Tactical evasion. So in the new category, Raider. This operative can perform the charge action while within engagement range of an enemy operative. In addition, each time this operative performs a normal move action, it can move within the engagement range of an enemy operative, but can't finish its move there. That's pretty cool, you know, in terms of the flexibility that opens up for you, but you'll play entire games where that won't come up, right? Stealthy. Each time a shooting attack is made against its operative in the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, before rolling your defense dice, if it's in cover and more than red away from an active operative, you can do one of the following. Retain an additional dice as a successful normal save as a result of cover. Retain 1 dice as a successful critical save as a result of cover. I mean, that's good, okay, but it's a lot of caveat. I understand why it's there for people that play Raven Guard, right? So they need a stealthy thing, they need this category. It's like the Raven Guard category. Fair, right? I just wonder if unyielding mechanically might not just be better. Mobile. The operative can perform a fallback action for 1 less action point to a minimum of 1 AP. How often do you... I can't think of the last time I fell back in a game of Kill Team. Maybe you might have only cost 1 AP, but I can't think of when I have. Gene Wrought Resilience Unyielding, it's +1 wound, yep, good. Durable, critical hits inflict 1 less damage on the operative. That's pretty good as well. That's potentially slightly better than +1 wound. If you think that each operative probably takes more than 1 crit per game. Hardy, each time a shooting attack is made against its operative, in the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, retained defense results are 5 upper critical saves out of 6. That's also pretty... Like, this category because you're going to get shot, you're going to get hit, you're going to take damage in every game on all your models. So this category sings out to me. But it's the sad thing. It's kind of like how the community has decided that Nurgle is the best way to run legionaries. I think this gene-wrought resilience category might well turn out to be the best way to run Space Marines. But if you play a chapter that's not particularly renowned for being extra hardy, extra stoic, extra resilient, you know, you're kind of wanting to, your urge to adhere to the background is going to pull you in other directions. But I think if you're playing to win, to pick the mechanically optimal options, you're going to be looking at these gene-wrought resilience options. They're pretty good. Discipline of Iron. Accurate. Each time this operative makes shooting attack with a bolt weapon in the roll attack dice step of that shooting attack, if you retain a critical hit, the weapon gains no cover special rule from the shooting attack. You're going to be shooting a lot of bolt weapons. Not always going to be shooting other people in cover, but it's pretty good. Methodical. You can ignore all modifiers to the ballistic skill and weapon skill of this operative's weapons. Yeah, given that that's all over your whole team the whole time, so it means basically you never have to worry about being injured. It's okay. Yeah. Deadly Sharpshooter. For bolt weapons the operative is equipped with, subtract 1 from the critical damage, add 1, add mortal wounds, 1 critical hit rule. It's fine. It's, you know, it's pretty good. You're getting damage through even if they save. I just think for my money, these gene-wrought resilience ones are probably, like, I like the Martial Zealotry ones as well, especially rapid, right? For a combat team, I think these gene-wrought resilience ones are going to be the ones that are the most utility-filled, in my humble opinion. Right, let's get through and look at the data sheets. So your sergeant, so you're picking one of these. Now, let's just take a minute to appreciate the stat block. 15 wounds, obviously 15 goods a leader. Your core guys have got 14 wounds. Look at this. Your core guys have got 14 wounds. That's a lot of wounds. Apart from any, has a lot of wounds. Especially once you consider some of this stuff that you give an extra wound as well, right? And you can make them have 1 less damage. You could give them unyielding and durable. That would be pretty good, I imagine. Yeah. Right. So the key thing to notice here is we obviously worked out by now that generally speaking, things in Kill Team have hidden stats. They have a weapon skill and a ballistic skill stat, like a base stat, and then there are +1 and -1 modifiers, and all that's hidden from us. So the Intercessor Sergeant has, if you like, a base hidden weapon skill of 2+, and a base ballistic skill of 3+, and the Intercessor Sergeant is the other way around, has a base BS of 2+, and a base WS of 3+. So if you look around the weapons, Hand Flamer's hitting on 2+, because Flamers always do. Bolt Pistol hits on 3, Plasma Pistol hits on 3, Chainsaw hitting on 2, Power Fist, because it's got -1, usually cuts a Power Fist, hitting on 3, Power Weapon hits on 2, Thunderhammer hits on 3, and then if you look at the Intercessor Sergeant, it's 1 worse for all the melee weapons, so Thunderhammer's down on 4, Power Weapons are down on 3, Power Fist down on 4, you can have Fists, not sure why you would, they're down on 3, Chainsaw down to 3, but then with his bolt rifles, he's up on 2+, as averse to the 3+ to hit on the Intercessor Sergeant. Now there's 2, maybe 3 builds that I would consider going with these. The Intercessor Sergeant is better at hitting, and the big thing your Sergeant gets is hitting, so the draw for me is to the Intercessor Sergeant, because I'm going to want to give my Sergeant a cool combat weapon. Regardless of what else I'm doing, I'm going to give him a cool combat weapon. I'm going to want to give him a Power Fist, right? Some people are going to say Thunderhammer's better. I don't see it. Right, Stun, right? An extra crit damage and brutal, so your crits can't be parried away from you, is, I think, better than Stun, especially when you've got this many wounds. But if you think the Thunderhammers are better, let me know, okay? The other option with the Sergeant, as we discussed on the first page, is you can go for a Plasma Pistol, then you're stuck with the Chainsword. But a Chainsword isn't bad. It's 5 dice hitting on 2s, 4, 5. It's still a decent weapon. I think in some ways Plasma Pistol and Chainsaw might still be the best option, which is a little depressing, I guess, because the plasma's just that good. So I don't know. I think the thing is, I'm going to say this time and time again, you're a 6-man team, you're going to make use of your roster. So you're going to want to build a plasma pistol sergeant. You're going to probably want to build a power fist and heavy bolt pistol sergeant. And then maybe you do an intercessor sergeant with a bolt rifle or an auto bolt rifle. Hitting on 2+, and then you're going to get a piece of war gear. If you go this way, you're going to get a piece of war gear later on to really leverage the fact that you're hitting on 2+. Again, just to point it out, and I'll point it out on the next slide as well, but it applies to both the leaders. Your Intercessor Sergeant has Bolter Discipline built in, so you can always perform 2 shoot actions with as long as one of the shots is with a bolter. And your Intercessor Sergeant has Shock Assault, so you can always perform 2 fight actions. Generally speaking, I think Bolter Discipline has more value than Shock Assault. And generally speaking, I think shooting has more value than combat. So I think the whole team kind of leans towards wanting to be a shooting team, unless you find yourself in a situation where you know you're going to want lots of combat, either because you're playing against something like Harlequins, right? Who you have to close with them to kill them anyway because of you can only really shoot them when you're within red of them. Or Gallo Dark potentially is going to skew things and make it a very combat focused army. So the Warriors, just like always, the Warriors are 1 wound less, okay, and their ballistic skill is 3+, and weapon skill is 3+. The Intercessor Warriors are basically the same as Reavers in terms of their equipment. So the heavy bolt pistol is exactly the same as the Reaver pistol. The chain sword is exactly the same as the Reaver knife. But obviously they got a few more wounds compared to Reavers, and they can do 2 fight actions. I feel like, and this is a pretty good time to mention it, I feel like this team is very, like, comparing it to Phobos. Phobos has loads of little bits, right? You can spend an AP to go and conceal. Your Reavers can do terror. You can throw down smoke grenades. There's a lot of intricate little things that you can do. It's quite cerebral. Intercessors is different. Intercessors is a very solid team. Yeah, but everything you have kind of stands alone. There's no synergies here. You've not got a comms, you've not got a medic, you've not got any of these things really where your models want to interact with any other model on a tabletop. What you've got is 6 very tough, pretty elite dudes that are each going to really be able to do their own thing and not need to be paired up with anybody else. Okay? So I think Intercessor, generally speaking, you're going to play the team as a shooting team. I think Assault Spam is something that you want to roster it and occasionally do it. I think that the Intercessor gives you more value. In terms of the Intercessor, you got your Auto Bolt Rifle, a Bolt Rifle, and the Stalker Bolt Rifle. Same stat blocks. We're just comparing the special weapons. Ceaseless is so good. Right, re-rolling your misses, it's really, really good. Yeah. P1 on a crit is pretty good. I think the Auto Bolt Rifle wins it though. Stalkers, AP1 all the time and heavy, so you can't shoot and move. I wouldn't bother with the Stalker at all. The Bolt Rifle, we're going to look at equipment in a minute. The Bolt Rifle, the calculus maybe gets changed on that when you look at the equipment, but I think by far and away the choice is the Auto Bolt Rifle. He's even got an Auto Bolt Rifle in the picture, so that's good. Auto Bolt Rifle is the choice. And then we've got the Specialists. The Specialists are quite simple as well. So the Assault Intercessor Grenadier, it's an assault with all the same things as the Assault Intercessor, but he gets a crack and a frag for free. Obviously, with the grenade FAQ, that is then your 1 crack and your 1 frag for the team, but you don't have to worry about spending the equipment points on him. So obviously, if you're going to take an Assault Intercessor, you're going to take the Grenadier as your first Assault Intercessor. It's just an upgrade. Okay? You might not want to take an Assault Intercessor. You might decide that what you really want to be is an all-shooting team, and then you're missing out on your frag and your crack grenade. You can buy them from the armory and put them on a long-range model, but I put it to you that if you're planning to throw that crack grenade, he may as well be on an assault intercessor who's got a P1 range red pistol anyway, right? They're going to get into combat, they're going to be up close because they're going to run up to throw their grenade. the Intercessor Gunner. The Intercessor Gunner is just really, really good. So the Intercessor Gunner is quite interesting. He has two weapons. He has his choice of bolt rifle and an auxiliary grenade launcher. The auxiliary grenade launcher is a totally separate weapon. Okay, I know on the model and in the lore it's like a gun with a thing underneath it, but just think of him as having two separate guns. Okay, the auxiliary grenade launcher has crack rounds, right? So it's 4 dice hitting on 3s, 4/5 damage AP1, or frag rounds, 4 dice hitting on 3s, 2/4 damage blast circle. Not indirect. Okay, it's a grenade launcher. It doesn't fly in a parabolic arc. Okay. And then look at Bolter Discipline. Bolter Discipline has changed. The operative can perform 2 shoot actions during its activation if a bolt weapon is selected for at least one of those shooting attacks. So every turn you can fire your crack round from your auxiliary grenade launcher, and you can take a shot with your auto bolt rifle. Okay, because again, I'd recommend going for the auto bolt rifle. This is the closest thing the team has to an auto include. If you really want to go all assault intercessors because you're trying to tell a story, or whatever it is, then you do that. But I think the Intercessor Gunner is as close as you reasonably get to an auto include in this game. You know, it gives you that reliable, reusable AP1 long range weapon with 4/5 damage. Really good, really solid. Okay, let's look at the equipment. So some interesting things in equipment. Vengeance class scope for 3 equipment points. Select a bolt rifle or a stalker bolt rifle and it gains lethal 5 up for the battle. So that changes the maths on what bolt rifle that you take. I think with a Vengeance class scope, you suddenly want a standard bolt rifle because now you're lethal 5 up with piercing 1. But I feel like it's going to vary between team. So I'm sure there's loads of people in this community who are really good at maths. My gut feeling is that a bolt rifle with a Vengeance class scope is slightly better than an auto bolt rifle, but a plain old Billy basement auto bolt rifle that you haven't slapped a 3 EP scope on is going to be only very marginally worse. So the question comes, do you want to put that scope on a model? And it's a maths question ultimately, right? Now, Reclusian Blessed Bolts, yes, you take it every single time. This is the argument for taking a leader with a bolt rifle. So this gives you +1 to your damage characteristics, right? So you go back here to your sergeants and you go, okay, Intercessor Sergeant, you're going to have an auto bolt rifle, so it's going to be hitting on 2s, 4 dice, ceaseless. You're going to do damage for 5 on a crit. That's very good, okay? You put it on your leader because he's hitting on 2+, if you want to go for a shooting leader. If you don't want to go for a shooting leader, stick it on somebody else, okay? Now, you might be tempted to stack it and put the Reclusian Blessed Bolts on a regular bolt rifle and also give it the Vengeance class scope. Are you definitely going to land more? Are you definitely going to land more dice with AP1? P1 on the crit, lethal 5 ups? You're going to get the P1 most of the time, so they're going to be down to rolling 2 dice versus re-rolling all your misses. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be slightly better, and then of course it's going to depend on the save characteristic of what you're shooting at, right? If you're shooting at another elite team, 3-up armor save, or even Custodes with a 2-up armor save, suddenly the value of putting a scoped bolt rifle goes up, right? Because they're more likely to pass any given save. But against the 4-up armor save team, I feel like you're still going to be better with the auto bolt rifle. I'll let a clever person figure out in the comments for me. Tilting shield is pretty funny. If you're taking assault intercessors, it's tempting to give them tilting shields. It is unfortunately expensive because it would be nice if you could just put it on all your assault intercessors. Each time the operative fights in combat, in the roll attack dice step to combat, your opponent cannot retain attack dice results of less than 6 as critical hits. So it turns off lethal X or rending rules. with the popularity of the power sword on most sergeants, it's just funny. If you've taken a combat leader with a power fist or something, this is definitely something that you want to stick on your combat leader, who's going to go and find their leader to fight in single combat. And if their leader's like most, and he's got power sword, well, you don't got your lethal 5+ anymore, which I think is fun. Okay. Purity seals, I don't rate them. I don't think it's worth 3 EP to get a free command reroll, but maybe you haven't got anything else that you want to spend the points on, because you've taken your Blessed Bolts, and you don't think that the Vengeance class scope's worthwhile, and you don't think that and you don't have any combat guys because you've gone all shooting, so you don't think the tilting shield is worthwhile. And so then you're looking at, well, I've got 7 equipment points still to spend. So maybe you pick up a couple of Purity Seals. They're not bad. They're just maybe not worth the equipment points. But the trouble is you haven't got that much you're going to spend your equipment points on. Because you've got Grenadier, right? So ignore, ignore that I could buy crack grenades. Because you've got your Grenadier who's got his free crack grenades, right? Auspex could have been so much better. So it's 2 equipment points for your Auspex plus. And it gives you an action, so for 1 AP, you can do an Auspex scan. You need to have someone visible to you and within red until the end of the turning point. They're not obscured, and the defense dice cannot automatically be retained as a result of cover, and you can't do it in engagement range. I just think in this post-Vantage Point FAQ world, it would be really nice to see the Auspex, same thing, to see it let you have the rule where you can treat a conceal as an engage. So you could walk up to people who are up on a container concealed with their sniper rifle and be like, oh, the sniper's up there, and shoot him. That would make perfect sense. Now, it doesn't have that utility to weed out silent sniper people, which I think is a little bit sad. Combat Blade's okay. What's good about it, to be honest, is 1 EP. So if you've taken any 3 of these 3 EP upgrades, then you've got your 1 EP left. You're going to spend it on a combat blade for somebody. I would suggest on one of your intercessors with an intercessor warrior with a rifle. Maybe on your gunner, to be fair, because then A, you're going to remember who's got it, okay, and B, people are going to want to try and take that guy out by putting their own melee guys in, so at least you can go, hi, I've got a combat blade. It's better than a kick in the teeth. It's basically free. Because you're gonna end up with that 1 point left over, I would say. You know, unless you do something funny, you take the Auspex and then you somehow take a frag grenade that's not on the Grenadier, but you're gonna end up with that combat blade. It's another reason to not take the Auspex. It's awkward, isn't it? Because if you assume you're not paying for the grenades, you're then gonna end up. We take 2 combat blades, I guess. Yeah. Ploys. So the ploys, I think the Doctrines are cute and useful, don't get me wrong, but they're trying to ape what they have in 40k. So in 40k, Marines start in the Devastated Doctrine, they progress to the Tactical Doctrine, and then the Assault Doctrine, and then you've got ways of moving between them in big 40k. In this, you don't, obviously, it wants you to start in Devastated, go into Tactical, and go into Assault, but you don't have to do it that way. Basically, Devastated Doctrine is 1 CP, and each time you make a shooting attack against an operative that's more than red away, in the roll attack dice step, you can re-roll an attack dice. You can't stack it with other doctrines. In the Tactical Doctrine, it's the same thing for when you're within red, right? And then in the Assault Doctrine, it's the same thing for assaults, right? So you pick one and use it, but maybe you don't pick one in the first turn, depending on whether you think you're going to get any shots in the first turn. Maybe by the second turn you're jumping straight into Tactical. Depends on the board state. You can jump backwards and forwards. You don't have to progress through them linearly. They're nice to have. They're nice to have for sure. And They Shall Know No Fear as well is very solid, very good. You can ignore any and all modifiers to APL, and you can ignore the fact that you're injured, and that circle movement penalty as well. It's really good. It's not a team with a medic though, and I always think this is really, this sort of thing, like Phobos have a really good thing where they have this rule or very similar to it, but the Phobos also have a medic, so you can resurrect somebody that literally, they come back, they're on one wound, that they've lost an AP, the medic's lost an AP, and then you pop this and go, okay, we ignore all those penalties. We just fight as normal. That's pretty good. Tactical ploys. So adaptive tactics we've talked about, right? So that's that thing where you've rostered your chapter tactics, and then once you know who you're playing against and what mission you're playing, you can swap them, but only within the subcategories here. So if you'd picked, say, a Gene Wrought Resilience one and a Martial Zealotry one, you could swap them within that category. If you'd picked two in one category, then you could only use it once, and you could swap one of them to the other one, I guess. How often are you actually going to do it? I don't think all that often, because I think you're going to want to keep the command points, and I think you're going to get round it, like I said, by picking things like unyielding, like durable, that are just always useful. Okay. What it does mean though is if you're in that tournament setting, and you draw a Harlequins player, and you're like, oh, now I want to take all my combat guys. Then maybe you go, well, maybe you decided, oh, I'm going to take Rapid. I'm going to put Rapid on my roster because 1 inch of movement's always useful. And then when I realise that I'm fighting against an army where I'm using all my combat guys, I'm going to change Rapid to Aggressive. I can sort of see it, but I don't actually think we're going to use it that often. I see what it's for, though, and I see the design space they're trying to open up, and I like it. I just don't think it's worth the candle. Transhuman Physiology. Use the tactical ploy and roll defense dice, step of shooting attack. After rolling defense dice for a friendly Intercession squad operative, you can retain one of your successful normal saves as a critical save instead. When you need it, right? Spend a CP, potentially keep somebody alive. Excellent thing to have in the back pocket. Angel of Death. At the end of the firefight phase, select one operative to perform a free fight action. If you are locked in a combat, doesn't often happen in Kill Team, does it? But if you are locked in a combat that has lasted to the end of the turn, you can use this. You perform a fight action, you strike first. Hopefully, you've done enough wounds to them in the preceding fight action that you're then going to get to kill them before it goes into their turn, and they trigger a fight action, and then they're striking first. So in that scenario, when it comes up, it's a nice thing to have in the back pocket. Wrath of Vengeance, kind of your watered down. Obviously, they're slowly culling only in Death Does Duty End from the rule set. This is kind of your watered down oddie, right? So this is when I kill you, you spend a CP, and you get to shoot me with your weapon, right? Pretty good. Pretty good if someone's just killed your auxiliary grenade launcher. 1 CP, free crack grenade shot right in there. I know shooting's not always reciprocal, but it often is. Crack grenade shot right in your face. Why not, right? Nice to have for 1 CP. Or you've got a plasma pistol leader, right? If you've gone down that road, then again, plasma pistol right in somebody's face, bang, you're dead. Let's move on. Tac Ops. The Tac Ops are the weakest thing about this team, in my opinion. Like, they're underwhelming. Shock and Awe. Shock and Awe is probably the best one. You can reveal this Tac Op in the tactical objective step of any turning point. At the end of any enemy turning point, if friendly operatives control one or more objective markers that were controlled by enemy operatives at the start of the turning point, you gain 1 VP. If you do it again in a subsequent turning point, you gain 1 VP. Like, pushing the enemy off objective markers is something that you're going to want to do probably, and so probably it's something that you're going to score just by winning, and if you don't score it, it either means that you've gotten beaten really badly that it wouldn't have mattered because you never got them off any of the objectives, or that you dominated so hard from the start that they never really got anyone onto the objectives, and so it's no much of a muchness. The only thing I would say is, in that case, it's one of those couple of tactical ploys where if you're playing in the tournament situation where you know that your Tac Op points are going to be used to determine your positioning, thinking of the infamous Warhammer World 3-round tournaments where you end up with about half a dozen people on 3 wins, and it all comes down to scoring Tac Op points. Do you want a Tac Op where if you dominate, it's difficult to score? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Now, the risk of not being able to score this one's quite low. The risk of being able to not always get both VP from it, I would say, if you're doing really well, is quite high. Champion of Mankind just seems like an absurd... Given that you've got the security deck, Champion of Mankind seems like an absurd challenge for yourself. So you can reveal it when a oh, dearie me. You can reveal it when a friendly Intercession squad operative incapacitates an enemy operative. And then, at the end of the battle, If that friendly operative has incapacitated more enemy operatives than other friendly intercession squad operatives have during the battle, you score 1 VP. If you use it on your leader or your gunner, that might be a VP that you score because you kill more people with that model than you kill with anybody else. If that friendly operative incapacitates more enemy operatives than each other enemy operative has during the battle, you score 1 VP. So you're going to have to kill 2 guys, say, with your leader or with your crack grenade, and then hope that none of the opponents manage to kill 2 guys, right? Or kill 3 guys and hope none of them manage to kill 3 guys. I think it's potentially possible, but it's going to be really difficult. It's a difficult one to actually play, right? You might get it by accident, but it relies on your opponent not getting the kills, because for all that you're going to have a plasma gunner and a plasma pistol leader maybe, and a crack grenade, auxiliary grenade launcher guy, they're going to have their models like that. They get the lion's share of their kills. They're going to have their plasma guy or their sniper or their rocket or whatever it is. So you need to make sure that your elite, like, strongest piece is killing more than their strongest piece, and that's not always easy to do. And then indomitable superiority is a really silly thing. Reveal this tack up at the end of the battle. If enemy operatives do not control any objective markers, but an intercession squad operative does, you score 1 VP. If there are less enemy operatives in the kill zone than there are friendly intercession squad operatives in the kill zone, you score 1 VP. If you have stepped on your opponent's neck, you can have 2 VP, right? You're an elite team with 6 models. So if you take this against a 7 wound, like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 model team, you're feeling very confident that you're going to table him basically, or you know, kill over half in the case of the Vetguard his dudes, and you're being very confident that you're going to wipe them off every single objective marker. So it's like, if you stepped on their neck, win more, right? If you haven't, like, really totally dominated, you also don't score your tac ops. I don't like it. I think if I'm playing these, I'm taking security, and I'm probably swapping out the plant the banner for shock and awe, right? I think that's probably the deck I'm going with. Yeah. Final thoughts. So this team's really interesting in that they're a really good beginner team. In so much as there's none of that Rube Goldberg stuff that I was talking about in my Croup video that I'm told that normal people refer to as a wombo combo, but I like to call them Rube Goldberg teams. If you don't know what a Rube Goldberg machine is, go on YouTube and you've just lost half an hour of your life. But there's none of that. There's none of that. Almost none of these models interact with each other. You've got no comms, you've got no medic, you've got no one generating points, doing anything. If you take an Auspex, then maybe there's a tiny little hint of a combo in there, but you're probably not taking an Auspex. These are 6 models that operate basically totally independently of each other, and if one key piece dies, it doesn't really diminishes the effectiveness of the team, doesn't really diminish the effectiveness of the other individual models, right? So it's the polar opposite from what I play quite often, which is novitiates, where you've got so many pieces that exist to buff, improve, heal your other models. You've got none of that. You don't need to worry about any of that. When you're actually in the game and you're playing, you've got basically nothing extra to remind yourself to think about. You've just got these really solid guys roaming around doing stuff, which is how intercessors should work. That expert level play, that thing that's going to elevate these a little bit, it will come from rostering and having the intellect to know, and the tactical acumen to know when you should take more shooting, when you should take more assaults, which version of the sergeant you're going to take, things like that. They are a deep roster building, team building, list building kind of a team, where I don't think you can say, unlike a lot of other teams, you know, if someone asks me, as happens quite often, how do I build novitiates? You say, well, you definitely want to take both flamers, you probably don't take the icon, and you don't take the duelist, and then if you really want to, buy a second box, and these are like the 1 or 2 situations where you might sub in the icon or the duelist. If you want me to tell you how to build these guys, you know, you've got options. You can go all shooting. You see, you can go all shooting, right? Which is a thing. So you could take the leader with an auto bolt rifle and a power fist or a thunder hammer, because you may as well have it, right? And then you give that leader the ammo that makes his old auto bolt rifle better, yeah. And then you take your gunner, yeah, and then you take what, 4 guys with auto bolt rifles. That's not a bad team. You can skew the other way. You can go all assault. So you take your choice between an assault fellow with a power fist and a bolt pistol, or a plasma pistol and a chainsaw. Probably if you're going all assault, you go for the power fist and a bolt pistol, right? And then you get your grenadier, you load up on assault marines and assault traits, yeah. Or you go to balanced list, where you go, okay, well, I'm going to take the plasma pistol guy, I'm going to take the gunner, I'm going to take the grenadier, and then I'm going to take what, two shooting intercessors with auto bolt rifles and an assault intercessor. That might be the way that you go. Those are kind of the 3 lists that spring to mind. But you want to build more than that. You want to be able to have enough stuff on your roster, I think, that you can do any of those things. And then knowing when to swap between them and when to best use them is how you're going to play this team well. So you're going to want to build 3 sergeants. So you're going to want to build 3 sergeants. You're going to want to build 5 assault intercessors, one of whom has a grenade belt to mark him out as the grenade guy. And you're going to want to build 5 intercessors, one of whom has the auxiliary grenade launcher. Then you've got everything you're ever going to need, right? So you're looking at 2 squads of 5 effectively, plus 3 cool characters that you can drop in when you decide that you want to use a different character. So that's probably the way I'll go with them. If you want to save money, obviously you be the judge of when you want to choose different things. But I think that's the way that you want to go. So you're rostering about 13 guys. Maybe you see utility in some of the other sergeant loadouts, so you're rostering even more guys than that. But certainly you don't need to roster more than 4 intercessor warriors and the gunner, and 4 assault intercessors and the grenadier, because there is no situation when you're taking a warrior over the gunner or the grenadier respectively. I think in this team, probably the general case will be that you want to go all shooting, or mainly shooting. I think that you just get more value from the bolter discipline than you do from the fight twice, right? Because I run novitiates mostly, and I've got the penitent novitiates who can fight twice as a basic thing on a card. And I always say it to my opponent, well, I'm not doing a fight action, technically I'm doing the action where I can fight twice. Almost never becomes useful. I've had like 1 game I can think of in recent memory where Zimbad had 2 Terminators that were like quite close to each other, and I was able to charge into both of them and fight one and then fight the other. And even doing that, you're still conceding the bonus for combat support in the first combat. So yeah, I think that's my thoughts on this. If you have better insight, please share it down in the video description. I am going to be streaming tonight in about 2 hours if my voice has recovered from having to do this video. So please come along from that. I think we're doing some heresy stuff, but maybe I'll randomly decide that what I'm doing is building a Space Marine kill team. We will see. Yeah, and thank you. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe. You know, it's a really small channel. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm really, really pleased with that. So, yeah, great. Have a great day, folks. Cheerio.